So, I want to introduce Ian as these guys are getting ready. Ian Stuart is a dad, a husband, and a teacher. He studied languages intending to go to the mission field, but God made it clear that he was to stay here in Hamilton, the city of his birth. See what I mean about these old pictures? Well, let me tell you, I first met Ian when he looked a little bit more like that. I was a student teacher at Aldershot Public School, and my supervisor said to me, if you really want to see an expert teacher at work, you have to go to Mr. Stuart's class. And that was a long, long time ago. And I would say that I've been learning from him ever since. So welcome, Ian.
And Alison Witt loves living in the beautiful north end of Hamilton and has worked with, shared community with refugees and those who advocate for refugees for the past 20 years. Most recently working to match families with spare rooms with refugees through open homes. She is part of the Eucharist Church community and delights in learning with her friends from the other True City congregations. I only had the privilege of meeting Alison within the past couple of years, but had already known of the richness of Alison's stories and the stories she has to share through the many people I encountered who had been impacted by her story. And so we're privileged tonight to get to hear the stories of Ian and Alison.
Good evening. Does this work? Yeah. So I'm one of those people who still reads an actual newspaper. Like, we get the Hamilton Spectator delivered to our front doorstep 6 days a week. I'm also one of those people who cuts out and saves articles that I think are important and I might want to go back to and refer to sometime. Yeah, I know you can find them online somehow, somewhere, but it just isn't the same to me. These are a stack of newspaper articles I saved from 19 years ago that hold special meaning. I'll just put them down here. There's a slide that will show you the front cover of one of them. So they're special because the same year that God was drawing churches together to launch True City, he was also opening the eyes of Hamilton to the harsh realities of refugees. The Spec sent a reporter and a photojournalist to Kenya on an 8-month assignment to tell the stories of people living in refugee camps, as well as those who were coming and finding home in Hamilton. Every day for 4 weeks, there were front page, full spread, compassionate stories with stunning photos. To me, it was a pivotal moment in shaping the collective attitude of our city towards refugees, including the church. The soil was being prepared. The Spirit was at work, stirring and connecting in beautiful ways. You know, at the very first True City conference, held right here in Philpott, one of the breakout sessions was called Welcoming New Arrivals. And at that time, we didn't know anybody locally we could invite to facilitate because it was all so new to us. So we invited someone we knew from the States who had decades of global refugee experience to come and lead that session. And when he heard that 1/3 of all the conference attendees had signed up for that workshop, he said something I always remember. He said, "Wow, that never happens." Welcoming refugees is not typically a popular topic. You need to pay attention to this. God is up to something. And he was. There were actually many conversations happening in different parts of the church in Hamilton. There was a couple from People's Church on the mountain who had been to a refugee summit in Turkey, and they came back with this strong sense that they were called to be advocates for refugees and that God was asking them to do something here in Hamilton. There was a team of Filipinos, missionaries from International Teams Philippines, who had come to Hamilton to work with us to learn about multicultural ministry. And through their research, they identified the biggest need for the gap for newcomers in Hamilton was initial housing for refugee claimants. So one Sunday, they were invited to share their learnings with the Filipino congregation that meets at People's Church. You know, that couple, the refugee advocates from People's Church, they'd never been to the Filipino service before. But that Sunday, they were running a bit late, and they thought, let's just slip into the back of the Filipino service. And there, they heard this presentation from the team of Filipinos. They heard about their vision for refugee claimants. Their hearts were stirred. Once again, the connection was made. Momentum was building. The True City group had already formed a refugee focus team, and we were meeting regularly and trying to discern how we could best respond to the refugee claimants arriving here. After that first conference, it didn't take God long at all to connect these different groups. The couple from People's, the Filipino team, and the True City refugee focus team, together we shared a common vision, and we were so excited to find each other. We began meeting together to dream and to pray and to see what might unfold.
So we formally commissioned a group of people, a steering committee with one goal: to establish a home to welcome newcomers to Hamilton, and they were exciting days. We chose the name Micah House based on Micah 6, verse 8. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. And this came to encapsulate our vision for Micah House. Initial steering committee included representatives from many different True City churches, including Bethany, People's, the Meeting House, Philpot, First CRC, Shekinah Rwandan Fellowship, the Filipino team, and Matthew House, a welcome home in Toronto that helped us get started. We met regularly to plan and to discuss. There was one meeting in particular where we were getting stuck. We'd never done this before. We don't know about zoning laws and bylaws, and they're complicated. So we paused our business meeting, and we started a prayer meeting, and we invited God to speak into it. And there was a powerful moment of release where God reminded us that this was his project and that he would take down the barriers and the walls that were preventing us from moving forward. That was one of many moments throughout this journey where he reminded us that this was his work that he was doing through us. All we had was a vision. All we had was a dream. All we had was an idea that we felt a need to share. So like any good, self-respecting Christian organization, we held a banquet and we asked for some money. And it worked. We raised $25,000, and it was just an idea. And it was evidence that God had been planting this seed of hope for this project, for his people throughout this city for some time. It was September 29th, 2005. $25,000 is a lot of money. And the other miracle is that $25,000 in 2005 was enough for a down payment on a house. So we set the goal to buy a house by December, which was quite ambitious, considering we didn't really know how to do this. We looked at many houses. You've heard them described as a unique century home with potential, a first-time buyer's dream, ideal for DIYers, put your own stamp on it, make it your own. That's agent speak for, they were kind of creepy, they were kind of dirty, they were kind of ugly and smelly. One moment in particular is memorable. We walked into a room, in a bedroom in one of the apartments in a house on Victoria Avenue North, not far from the General Hospital, and there was someone sleeping in the bed. We could only tell that because there was one foot sticking out from under the comforter. So the whole group of us had to tiptoe out of the room quietly. They didn't wake up, and we didn't buy that house. A little while later, a couple of us looked at 205 Holton Avenue South. And the moment we walked in, it felt like Micah House. It was a place of welcome, it was a place of home, it was a place of love and peace. But we were discouraged to learn that an offer had just been put in on it, and we thought, well, Lord, we thought we knew what you were doing and where you were leading. We thought not, so we moved to looking at some other houses, and none of them spoke to us the way that that one did. None of them said welcome. But it wasn't too long after that we heard that that deal had fallen through, and we quickly put in an offer just before Christmas, and we signed on the dotted line.
And then we began to collect furniture, and we chose paint colors and hosted painting parties. Volunteers from so many True City churches pitched in to help fix up this beautiful but older home to make it a welcoming space before we officially launched. As the house was being renovated, long-term relationships were being forged over paint cans and pizza as we worked together.
Our first guests were Clyde and Tsitsi Chapandama and their 2 children, Nyasha and Tindai, a young family from Zimbabwe. It was a glorious God moment when we welcomed them into the house and showed them their room. We were a bit shocked, though, when they showed up with a massive U-Haul truck full of all their stuff. They came to us via the United States, so it was quite a journey for them. And so right from day number 1, God was challenging our understanding and our misconceptions about what refugees are and who they are and where they come from and what they're like. Since the Chapandama family came 18 years ago, over 1,300 people have made Micah House their home. We have welcomed many people. They have come from over 60 nations, including Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, Bahamas, Chad, Czech Republic, Palestine, and Nigeria, among many others. And many come back today to continue to volunteer and be part of the community.
But since Micah House began, the number of refugee claimants arriving in Hamilton has radically increased. In 2017, we learned that Micah House had to turn away over 500 people simply because they didn't have space. And that was the catalyst for the start of Open Homes Hamilton, another local initiative that supports newly arrived refugee claimants. However, instead of people living together in one home, they are invited to have short-term housing in the homes of many volunteers from Hamilton churches. It's another beautiful model of the church extending hospitality to refugees. There's scope, for so many more innovative, spirit-led initiatives to respond to the growing number of refugees on the planet and in our city. I'm actually quite curious to see what God will lead us to next. But tonight, we want to celebrate and give thanks for Micah House, which for 18 years has been a place for the church in Hamilton to come together and to build friendships with refugee claimants around the dinner table.
One of the most beautiful things said about Micah House quite often by those who stay there is, Micah House is not a shelter, it is a home. Laughter and joy are often heard around the table as current guests share evening meals brought by volunteers from True City churches or by previous guests. Micah House, in its essence, is a powerful reminder of the core of the gospel of Jesus. It reminds us that we were once far, and we have been brought near. We were once strangers, and we are now brothers and sisters. We were once alone and hungry, and we have been welcomed into community. A way has been made for us, a home has been prepared for us, and a table has been set. I managed to track down Clyde and Tsitsi Chapandama, and I spoke to Clyde today, and it was beautiful. He and their family now live in Edmonton. They are busily making a life there. The tiny baby that came at 2 months of age is getting ready to graduate from high school. His name is Tinde, and his older brother, Nyasha, is in university. Clyde is a self-described equipment guy working in the mining industry of the West, and Tsitsi is director of finance for a cancer research center. The boys feel more Canadian than they do Zimbabwean or American. They're grateful for the important role that Micah House played for them at that time of transition. They even asked how they could be involved now, today. How can they contribute to this community? They found themselves being helped by people and they in turn have helped other recent refugees from Ukraine in their own community. Clyde stressed for me the importance of community for newcomers, exactly what Micah House had provided for them and has provided for 1,300 other like them, and more to come. Micah House is not a shelter, it's a home. A first home in a new country. A way has been made, a home has been prepared, and a table has been set. And Micah House is ready to welcome many more new friends to that table. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Please take some time, go to the atrium, visit the Micah House booth and the Open Homes booth. If you want to sit around a table with refugees, if you have space in your home, it's just such an unforgettable